It's time for my May TBR. Only 6 books this month, but 2 are chunkers, and I'm instituting a new feature on the channel for these TBRs, my Chunker of the Month. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, and welcome to my May TBR. I'm going to share with you the 6 books that I plan on reading this month. Yes, only 6 books. That's a low number for me, but 2 of these are huge. So I'm going to lay these out in the order that I think that I'll read them. As always, I have about a 3,000 page month planned, at least 3 genres. I pick most of the books, and I have a guest pick one of the books for me. This month I have Jimmy from the Fantasy Nuttwork going to pick one for me. I'm really interested to see what he picks for my May TBR. So I'm going to lay these out in the order that I plan on reading them. I haven't stuck to that order once this year, but it is what it is. All right, the first book I plan on reading in May is Tai-Pan by James Clavell. Now, I did talk about this briefly in my April TBR. The plan was to read half of it in April, half of it in May. None of that happened. I may start it before May starts, but for the most part, I'm going to read all of this in May. And I will be reading this with Alan from the Library of Alexandria, as well as Kyle from Read by Kyle, and we'll probably do a discussion on one of our channels about this book. But if you haven't heard about Tai-Pan, Tai-Pan is the second book chronologically in James Clavell's Asian saga. And the first book was Shogun, which I loved. It was one of the best books I read last year. It's probably a top 15 book of all time for me. It was set in 1600 Japan, the time of the samurai, and dealt with the clash of cultures between East and West. And from what I understand, the 6 books in this Asian saga that Clavell wrote all have that as a similar theme. The setting, of course, is different in this one. In Tai-Pan, it's the 1840s and we're in Hong Kong. And I think we're dealing with different merchant groups, and it doesn't matter to me. Clavell immediately became a favorite of mine. Shogun is just one of my favorite books, so I'm just interested in reading all of his books. So Tai-Pan will be my first read of May. I'll be following up Tai-Pan with another book in Elric of Melniboné, the Omnibus by Michael Moorcock. The third book in the Omnibus is called The Sailor on the Sea of Fate. And it's the second book that he wrote in the series, but the Omnibus kind of goes chronologically. So some of the ones that were written later but take place earlier in the story kind of get mixed in there as well. But this is essentially for people that read publication order the second Elric novel. I've really enjoyed these Elric stories because they're very different takes on classic fantasy. You know I love classic fantasy, and Moorcock is a voice that I hadn't really read much. I did read a couple of them in high school, but they were lost to my memory over the years. And I'm enjoying getting back because it's a very different kind of classic fantasy. You see some of the roots of grimdark fantasy in there. And I'm just really enjoying these Elric books. And I have all 3 omnibuses, so I'll be squeezing these in probably about 1 a month as I go along throughout the year. And I'm looking forward to delving back into Elric of Melniboné. And my third book this month is the book that Jimmy's going to pick for me. So, Jimmy, take it away.
I don't want to read any more Wheel of Time. No, not Blandal Thorn. Oh. Sorry, I was having a fever dream, which just so happens to be the book by George R. R. Martin that I'm going to have Red Fury Books read in the month of May. It's a vampire novel. It's George R. R. Martin. There's a lot of food descriptions, gratuitous sex, but also some really good horror in here. And I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, well, Jimmy definitely earns the award for most unique TBR presenter who's been a guest on this channel so far. But I am very excited to read Fever Dream by George R. R. Martin. I mentioned, I think it was in my book haul video, how I know they're doing a big read-along right now on several channels of A Song of Ice and Fire. And I'm kind of jealous everybody's rereading that together, but I told myself I wouldn't do that until The Winds of Winter comes out. But I can at least read some George R. R. Martin in the interim. So I'm looking forward to this as a vampire tale. Back when vampires, I guess, were still scary. So very much looking forward to this. I do like Martin as an author, and Jimmy said the year he read it, it made his top 10 of the year. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading Fever Dream. So thank you for the recommendation, Jimmy. All right, the fourth book on the schedule in May is the chunker of the month, Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson. This is the third book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen and probably the first true chunker in the series. It's about 900 pages, and it takes place, I think, on the continent of the first book, Genebacus. I'm very excited to read this one for a few reasons. Number one, I felt that as I progressed through Dead House Gates and ended up loving that book, I found out how I could read Erikson and be successful. And I don't feel that I was 100% successful in Gardens of the Moon because I didn't understand everything and I didn't know how to read him. And I think I have a good idea now. Another aspect that I'm really excited is I was told, I forget who told me this, but somebody mentioned that this is one of the more straightforward Malazan tales. That in many ways this is Erikson showing that he can write a straightforward fantasy tale and it doesn't have to be the far-flung manner of storytelling the rest of the series is. I don't know if that's true or not. Even if it isn't, I'm excited for it. But I am excited to get back into this. I will shoot a vlog for this one. This one will be spoiler-filled. So those of you that have read up to this part of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, you can look forward to that, my spoiler thoughts as I go along. It'll probably take me a lot longer than typical Malazan book because it is the chunker of the month, but I'm definitely looking forward to Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson. And the fifth book I plan on reading this month is The Horse and His Boy by C.S. Lewis, which will be the fifth book in Chronicles of Narnia that I've read this year. I'm reading them publication order. It's third in the boxed set when you go in world chronological order. I'm very much looking forward to reading The Horse and His Boy. I've enjoyed the contrast, the months where I've read a Malazan book where I followed it up immediately with a Narnia book. Malazan book take about a week and a half and Narnia book take about an hour and a half. But I'm enjoying the series a lot more than honestly I thought I would. I enjoy the whimsy, I enjoy the lightheartedness of it, and I'm looking forward to reading The Horse and His Boy at the end of May. And the final book on my May TBR, A Darkness at Sethenon by Raymond E. Feist. So this is the conclusion of the Rift War saga, which I'm rereading this year, having read Magician in the single volume version for the first time this year, which I enjoyed tremendously more than the 2-volume version. This is some of the best classic fantasy from the 80s you will read. I'm looking forward to finishing up that storyline. I enjoyed Silverthorn just as much as Magician, and I'm planning on reading later this year the Empire trilogy that he co-wrote with Janny Wirtz, which takes place in this world. And that will be the conclusion to my May. So that's 6 books. If you read any of these, spoiler-free, of course, let me know in the comment section below. I'd also love to hear what you have on the schedule for May. What are you most excited to read about in the month of May? If you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter and Goodreads. I'd love to interact with you there. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.